Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Caroline and I make sewing tutorials and sewing patterns to help you along your sewing journey. And for today's video, to join the end of the year spirits, I'll be making a holiday themed dress. I celebrate Christmas, so I thought it would be fitting for the dress to be red this time. But if you want to recreate it at home, you can just make it the color you prefer. A few days ago, I came across this photo on Pinterest, and after researching it for a little bit, I found out it's from Helsa, the clothing brand of the model Elsa Hosk. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She's so pretty. She used to model for Victoria's Secret and all of that. But until now, I had no idea she had a clothing brand. I really loved her designs, especially this one. I just fell in love with this dress. She has it in black color too, which looks gorgeous. And I don't think it would be that hard to make it myself because the top part of the dress is very similar to the Milena dress pattern that I have. I just have to make some alterations to the bottom part of the pattern to make it work. But if you don't have the Milena dress pattern, it's okay. I already have a video here on my channel where I show you how to draft it yourself. It's the old money dress video. I'm going to link it in the description if you guys want to check it out. But if you want to get the Milena dress PDF pattern, the link will also be in the description. It comes in 2 different size ranges from a size 28 all the way to a size 62. So hopefully most of you will be able to find a size that fits you correctly. But this is the overall design. I'll just have to lengthen the skirt so it's a midi-length dress and draw this design line here that starts a little bit below the waistline and goes all the way to the hem. I don't think it will be that hard to do, so let's go learn how to make the pattern. So after I finished recording this, I realized that my microphone wasn't on. So I'm gonna have to re-record the audio for the pattern making part. And I'm sorry if it sounds a bit off, but I'm gonna be listening to the audio on my earbuds and I'm going to dub it. So I'm sorry about that. I hope you can understand it and I hope the audio is a little bit better this time. So whether you decide to purchase the pattern or to draft it yourself, just make sure that when you're transferring this to another piece of paper that you also transfer the bust line, the waistline, and the hips line on both the center front and the side front. So the majority of the alterations are going to happen towards the skirt part of the pattern, so I'm going to shift it here. So as you can see, this is the waistline of the pattern and I marked 2 centimeters downwards, almost 1 inch. And I connected it with a curve towards the hip line, but I stopped around 1 inch before the hip line. So this is the curve. And from the waistline downwards, I'm going to measure how long I want my skirt to be. In my case, that measurement is 92 centimeters, but that will depend on how tall you are or how long you actually want your skirt to be. So from the waistline, I marked down up until here 92 centimeters, and towards the side, I marked 4 centimeters. And I connected this point right here to the waist. So here in green we have the previous skirt line, and here in pink we have the new skirt line. And this is the bottom of the previous skirt. And as you can see, because of the line that I made connecting it to the hemline, this part right here will be taken out. So I measured the exact measurement of this part that was taken out from the hem of the short skirt, and I just transferred the same amount to the side skirt. So we're compensating it. We're taking it from here and adding it here. And after that, I just connected the waistline to the mark that we made. And I extended it all the way to the hem, and I measured from the waist the same 92 centimeters that we had measured before. And for the side seam, I only extended the previous seam of the skirt because it's already flared. So I just extended it all the way to the hem, and I also marked the 92 centimeters. And after that, I measured from the waist to the hem the 92 centimeters all around, just to make sure that it would be even, and I connected it with a curve. And I'll cut following the pink line of the skirt. And since the pattern that I used as a base already has seam allowance all around, the only part that I'm going to need to add seam allowance to the bodice will be down here, where I have the seam, and up in here at the skirt. So the front skirt pattern isn't completely finished yet. This will give you an A-line skirt, but I want it to be more voluminous, so I'm going to divide the pattern into 3 equal parts. Not necessarily equal, but roughly 3 parts. And I'm going to cut them to separate into 3. And now for this one and this one, I'm going to leave them connected here at the tip, and I'm going to spread only the bottom. But for this one and this one, I want to gather this part a little bit, so I'm going to leave it a little bit away from each other and still spread them even more at the bottom. And I'm going to glue some paper under here so I can actually have this on paper. So at the hem, I spread apart 10 centimeters on each cut, and here at the top I kept it together, and here I spread apart 3.5 centimeters. So this part right here will be gathered and this part will be sewn without gathering. I made a mark here so I know exactly from where I need to start gathering. And I placed the top pattern piece on top just so I can transfer the same mark here. And this is the part that we will gather. So here at the back, I also copied the pattern, and at the side seam, I lowered the same 2 centimeters that we lowered at the front. But at the center back seam, instead of lowering 2, I lowered 3.5 centimeters. And I also marked the seam allowance to each side, which is 1 centimeter, and I also extended the side seam. So that from the waistline all the way to the hem, it has 92 centimeters, the same one as the front. I measured the 92 here too, and I just have to connect it with the curve. I also divided the back skirt in 3, but this time I made sure that one of the lines was coming down from one of the lines that we made, taking in the seam allowance. So for this one, I spread it apart 3.5 centimeters at the top and 10 centimeters at the bottom. And now for this one, I'm going to place this part right here covering the seam allowance like this, while at the bottom, I still spread it apart 10 centimeters. And I added seam allowance at the top of the skirt and at the bottom of the bodice. And I also made the same mark that we made on the front so I can indicate better where the gathering will start. So I transferred the notches to the fabric, and the first step before we sew any panels to each other is to stay stitch the armholes and the necklines on the front and the back. And I will do that by running a stitch inside the seam allowance around 0.5 centimeter away from the edge. And now I can just pin them right sides together and sew. So I have already finished sewing the front and the back panels to each other. I also finished and top stitched. And now I'm going to sew the back panels to the front. I'm going to place them right sides together at the shoulders. And I'm gonna sew them at the shoulders and at the sides, on both sides, and I'm going to leave the center back open for now. So far, the construction of the dress is very similar to the Milena dress. The only difference is this very long part in the center. But now that we're almost done with the top, we're gonna start working on the skirt panels. I'm gonna start by sewing them to each other at the sides, and then after they're sewed, we're going to gather this part right here before we sew it to the top. So here's the center of the front skirt, and here's the side of the front skirt. This part we're going to sew to the top, the front top, and this part we're going to sew to the back skirt. So here's the top of the dress. This is the front part and this is the back part. Here we have the curve of the front, and I transferred the notch from the paper to the fabric. And this is the skirt piece. From one notch to the other of the skirt, I ran a basting stitch, which is a stitch that is very long, and I didn't backstitch in the beginning or the end because I'm going to use this to gather this part of the fabric by separating both threads and pulling only one of them. Until the distance between the notches at the top and the notches of the skirt is the same. And now I'm just going to place them right sides together, matching the side seam from the top to the skirt. And then we just pin the opposite curves of the skirt to the top, all the way to the hem. I just finished the final touches on the dress by adding the bias binding to the neckline and inserting the zipper. If you're planning on recreating this dress at home but you're not sure how to do these two steps, don't worry. The full tutorial for the Milena dress goes through both these techniques in detail. I'll also link it in the description below. And this tutorial works for any pattern with a similar shape, not just this one, so it might be helpful to you for other projects too. In the meantime, something really exciting arrived in the mail and I couldn't wait to share with you. The print with Via was kind enough to send me 3 pairs of their gorgeous shoes, and I'm so excited to show them to you. If you're not familiar with Via, they are an eco-friendly footwear brand that focuses on sustainability while offering high-quality, comfortable shoes. Now, choosing which pairs to get was a challenge because all their shoes are stunning. They have so many options that took me a while to narrow it down, but in the end, I chose 3 pairs that I think will work beautifully with my wardrobe. I picked their Ryan Pro boots in black, because let's be real, you can never go wrong with a pair of classic black boots, and 2 pairs of their Margot Mary Janes, one in black and one in red. Now let me start with the Ryan Pro boots. They are water repellent, which is great for rainy days. You don't have to worry about getting your feet wet. The material is also pretty stretchy, which makes them really easy to slip it on and off, and they also come with great arch support. Now onto the Margot Mary Jane flats, which I'm absolutely in love with. These shoes are totally my style. They are classic, feminine, and so versatile. I actually own a few Mary Jane style shoes already, but here's the thing. I usually only wear them for photos and videos, because most of them end up being too uncomfortable to walk around. But these Mary Janes are totally on another level. They're not just pretty, but pretty comfortable too. They're lightweight and have this insole with arch support, and they give plenty of space around the toes, which is nice for someone like me with bigger feet. I don't personally have bunions, but if you do, they do offer bunion-friendly options too. And the straps are totally adjustable. The black pair is an absolute classic. It goes with everything, and I think it's great for both casual and more dressier outfits. And the red pair, I think they just add the perfect pop of color to so many of my outfits. I'll be wearing the Margot Mary Janes when I reveal the final look of the dress, and I'm so happy with how well they pair with it. And if you're thinking about treating yourself to some Via shoes, you can use my code 12Coraline to get 12% off your purchase. The link will be in the description below. And now that the dress is finished, I have to share a last minute change that I made. I had to add a slit to one of the legs. It wasn't part of my original plan, but it was necessary. I didn't show that in the video, but the sewing process for the slit is very simple. Instead of sewing the center seam all the way to the hem, you just stop sewing where you want the slit to begin, and then you hem the raw edges to finish it off. And the reason why I decided to add the slit was because the center front panel of the skirt was bubbling and looking very strange. I seam ripped it and sewed it again, but it only really looked better when one of the sides was not sewn. I'm not totally sure why this happened, but I think it's because I cut the skirt panels a little bit wrong. Instead of following the grain line of the center front panel, I think I cut the side skirt with an angle, slightly tilted, which caused the fabric to naturally lay more towards the center of the dress and make the center panel bubble. That's my best guess, since that had never really happened to me before. It could also be that the fabric is a little bit too thin and lightweight for this, but either way, it was looking very ugly. So adding the slit was the best solution that I found. I just wanted to explain that before I show you the final result, which I will play right now. And now, to be honest with you, I am not in love with this dress. I waited until after the reveal to say this because I didn't want you to focus on the problems that I'm about to tell you. But here's the issue. The seams look terrible, which wasn't really my fault. I mean, technically it was, but my sewing machine was malfunctioning. It wasn't pulling the fabric properly anymore, so I tried to fix it by raising the tension. That helped it with the fitting, but it was the wrong tension for the fabric, so it also made the seams look wrinkly, and I hate how it looks. I mean, I need to iron it, but I think you can see, like, this is how it is throughout the entire dress. Usually I sew with noise-canceling headphones, so I don't actually hear the sounds that my machine makes, but this time I wasn't wearing them and I noticed the machine sounded so much louder than usual, like so much louder than it was supposed to sound. And that's when it hit me that I hadn't cleaned or oiled my machine since 2022. So I called a mechanic, a sewing machine mechanic, and he came to fix it, but it took him a few days for him to come, which is why it took me a little while to finish off the zipper. And let me tell you, when he opened the machine, there were so many fabric fibers like in the middle of the thing that pulls the fabric. I'm not gonna be able to explain that really well, but no wonder the machine wasn't pulling the fabric, like, poor thing. And while I was at it, I also had my scissors sharpened, and now everything feels so much better. Because honestly, I just completely forgot that I have to do those things. But if you've been putting off maintenance too, here's your reminder. Please clean and oil your sewing machine at least once a year. It makes a huge difference, especially in the long run. The sounds it was making before, I can almost hear it begging, "I'm thirsty, give me some oil, please." But now, she's finally back in shape. Both of them, my normal sewing machine and my overlocker too, they're both back in shape. I really needed that. And this will probably be my last video of the year, so I want to take a moment to wish you guys happy holidays. Whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, I hope it's a joyful time for you and for your loved ones. Thank you for being here and for making this year so special to me. 2024 was amazing, even though it had a lot of challenges, but the good moments were mostly thanks to you. I wish you all an incredible 2025, and I hope to keep seeing you here in the new year too. Bye!